How you doing, everybody? My name is Dr. Sami Baya. Please welcome back to my YouTube channel. How the covert narcissist tries to hurt you. That is the title of this video. Covert narcissists often use subtle and indirect tactics to undermine and hurt others. The methods of covert narcissists can be less obvious than those of overt narcissists, but they can still be deeply damaging. So in this video, I'm going to give you ways a covert narcissist might try to hurt you. Now, let's look at the emotional manipulation done by covert narcissists. Number one, they'll do silent treatment on you. A covert narcissist will ignore you for days or weeks without explanation. And an example, they don't respond to your text messages, they don't respond to your calls, they make you feel anxious and unimportant. Number two way covert narcissist tries to hurt you is through guilt tripping. They make you feel responsible for their unhappiness. And an example is they will tell you, I'm only happy or I'm only unhappy because you never make time for me. So they make you feel guilty. Number three way the covert narcissist tries to hurt you is through playing the victim. They exaggerate or fabricate problems to gain sympathy. And an example is a covert narcissist will play the victim by claiming everyone is out to get them, even when there is no evidence. The other way covert narcissist tries to hurt you is by passive aggression. They'll use indirect hostility to express anger or frustration. An example, a covert narcissist will consistently forget to do things they've promised. That way they make you feel frustrated. Again, a covert narcissist will withhold affection. They'll give affection only when it serves their purpose. For example, they will only show warmth when they want something from you. A covert narcissist will also use subtle criticism. They'll make belittling remarks disguised as compliments. For example, they will tell you, you look nice today, for once. Again, a covert narcissist will minimize feelings. They'll dismiss your emotions or experiences as insignificant. For example, they'll tell you you are overreacting and it's not a big deal. So, a covert narcissist also hurt you through the emotional blackmail. They'll use your emotions against you to get their way. For example, they'll threaten to end the relationship if you don't comply with their demands. A covert narcissist will also feign innocence. They'll act surprised or hurt when called out for their behavior. And an example is they'll tell you, I didn't mean to hurt you. Why are you so sensitive? A covert narcissist will also exploit insecurity. They'll use your personal insecurities to manipulate or demean you. For example, they'll make comments about your appearance or abilities to make you feel insecure. A covert narcissist will also manipulate others' perceptions. They'll spread rumors. They'll tell others negative things about you to undermine your reputation. For example, they'll tell mutual friends you've been talking badly about them. Again, a covert narcissist will manipulate other people's perceptions to hurt you through distorting facts. They'll twist your words or actions to make you look bad. For example, they'll accuse you of being late to an event when you are actually on time. They'll also gaslight you. They'll make you doubt your own perception or reality. For example, they'll deny something they clearly said or did, making you question your memory. They'll also play favorites. They'll create jealousy or rivalry by favoring others over you. For example, they'll praise others excessively while ignoring your accomplishments. A covert narcissist will also overcomplicate situations. They'll create confusion to keep you off balance. For example, they'll provide conflicting information to make you feel uncertain. A covert narcissist will also make you the scapegoat. They'll blame you for things that aren't your fault. For example, they'll hold you responsible for their mistakes or failures. A covert narcissist will also subtly sabotage you. They'll undermine your efforts or achievements in a concealed way. For example, they'll accidentally forget to mention your achievements in front of others. A covert narcissist will also hurt you through withholding praise. They'll never acknowledge or praise your success. For example, they'll ignore your accomplishments while celebrating others' achievements. They'll also project their behavior. They'll accuse you of traits or behaviors they actually exhibit. For example, they'll call you selfish while they consistently put their own needs first. They'll also create conflict. They'll start or escalate arguments to destabilize you. For example, they'll pick fights over trivial matters to provoke a reaction. A covert narcissist will also undermine your confidence. They'll belittle your achievements. They'll diminish your success or talents. For example, they'll say anyone could have done that. It's not a big deal. Again, a covert narcissist will undermine your efforts. They'll make you feel your hard work is not valued. For example, they'll criticize a project you spent hours on despite its success. They'll also feign support. They'll pretend to support you while subtly undermining your confidence. For example, they'll tell you that they are on your side, but then subtly sabotage your plans. They'll also intellectually one-up you. They'll make you feel inferior intellectually. For example, they'll constantly correct you or dismiss your opinions as uninformed. A covert narcissist will also compare you to others. They'll put you down by comparing you unfavorably to others. For example, they'll say, why can't you be more like somebody else? They'll mention somebody else's name. Again, a covert narcissist will hurt you through rewriting history. They'll alter past events to make you seem at fault. For example, they'll claim you always overreacted in past situations when that wasn't the case. They'll also doubt your abilities. They'll subtly suggest that you're incapable of handling responsibilities. For example, they'll say, are you sure you can handle this task? They'll also set unrealistic standards. And they do this to hurt you. They'll hold you to impossible standards and then criticize you for not meeting them. For example, they'll expect perfection in everything you do and pointing out flaws. A covert narcissist will also discredit your achievements. They'll suggest that your successes are due to luck rather than skill. For example, they'll say you only got that job because of who you know, not because of your talent. A covert narcissist will also sow self-doubt. They'll make you question your own judgment or decisions. For example, they'll say, I'm not sure you really thought this through. They'll also erode your relationships to hurt you. A covert narcissist will isolate you. They'll create distance between you and your friends or family. For example, they'll make disparaging comments about your friends to turn you against them. A covert narcissist will also sow discord. They'll cause conflicts between you and others to create distance. For example, they'll tell your partner that you are secretly unhappy with them. A covert narcissist will manipulate mutual friends. They'll influence friends to support their version of events. For example, they'll tell friends half-truths to get them on their side. They'll create dependency. They'll make you feel like you need them to function or to be happy. For example, they'll tell you that no one else could love or understand you like they do. A covert narcissist will also encourage unhealthy relationships. They'll introduce you to people who will undermine your well-being. For example, they'll set you up with friends who have negative influences. They'll undermine trust. They'll make you question the loyalty or intentions of those close to you. For example, they'll suggest that your best friend is talking behind your back. A covert narcissist will say one thing and then do another. They'll act in ways that contradict their words to confuse you. For example, they'll tell you they care about your needs, but consistently ignore them. A covert narcissist will sabotage your relationships. They'll subtly interfere in your relationships to create problems. For example, they'll make comments that spark jealousy or insecurity in your partner. A covert narcissist will also encourage over-reliance. They will make you feel like you can't make decisions without their input. For example, they'll question every choice you make so that you seek their approval constantly. A covert narcissist will also they'll do inappropriate disclosure. They'll share private information to embarrass or damage you. For example, they'll reveal personal secrets to mutual acquaintances to make you feel exposed. A covert narcissist will hurt you by creating a hostile environment. They will have unpredictable behavior. They'll be erratic and unpredictable to keep you on edge. For example, they'll change plans last minute without explanation. They will intimidate you. They will use subtle threats or intimidating behavior to control you. They will give you a stern look when you don't comply with their wishes. A covert narcissist will deliberately miscommunicate to create confusion. For example, they'll give vague instructions so that you fail to meet expectations. They'll also offer inconsistent feedback or expectations to keep you off balance. For example, they'll praise you one day and criticize you the next day for the same behavior. A covert narcissist will also micromanage you. They'll oversee every detail to undermine your confidence and autonomy. For example, they'll insist on reviewing every email or report you write. They'll also disregard boundaries. They'll ignore your personal boundaries to invade your privacy. For example, they'll read your personal messages or go through your personal belongings. A covert narcissist will criticize you unnecessarily. They'll offer harsh and unnecessary criticism to undermine your self-esteem. For example, they criticize your work in front of others to embarrass you. They'll also create a crisis. They'll invent or exaggerate problems to create stress. For example, they'll claim that something minor will have disastrous consequences. A covert narcissist will also feign concern. They'll act concerned about your well-being while subtly undermining you. For example, they'll say they are worried about your health while making you feel inadequate for not meeting their expectations. A covert narcissist is known for excessive control. They'll try to control aspects of your life to diminish your independence. For example, they'll dictate how you should spend your free time or manage your finances. The covert narcissist will hurt you also through subverting your autonomy. They'll overstep boundaries. They'll not respect your personal space or decisions. For example, they'll make major decisions for you without consulting you first. They'll also do subtle undermining. They'll subtly influence others to question your decisions or abilities. For example, they'll tell colleagues that you're not as capable as they think. They'll also interrupt you constantly. Frequently, they'll interrupt you to assert dominance or to dismiss your thoughts. For example, they'll cut you off mid-sentences to prevent you from finishing your point. They'll also compete with you. They'll turn everything into a competition to make you feel inferior. For example, they'll compare their achievements to yours and make you feel inadequate. They'll also over-explain. They'll make simple matters complex to undermine your confidence in your understanding. For example, they'll provide overly detailed explanations for things you already understand. A covert narcissist will use your secrets against you. They'll leverage private information to manipulate or control you. For example, they'll bring up personal or sensitive information to embarrass you during arguments. A covert narcissist will also support you conditionally. They'll offer support only when it benefits them. For example, they'll show enthusiasm for your projects only when they stand to gain something from them. A covert narcissist will also undermine your decisions. They'll second guess or criticize your decisions to make you doubt yourself. For example, they'll question your career choices or personal goals to make you feel uncertain. They will also, for example, they'll question your career choices so that they can confuse you, so that you can second guess things. Again, a covert narcissist will make you feel like you can't succeed without their help or approval. They'll act as though your success is solely due to their guidance. They'll also change agreements or understandings to suit their needs. For example, they'll claim you agreed to something different than what was originally discussed. Again, they will create self-doubt. They'll make you question your own sanity or judgment. For example, they'll deny things they said or did. They'll make you doubt your perception. They'll also feign forgetfulness. They'll act like they forgot important commitments or promises. For example, they'll consistently forget to do things they agreed to. They'll cause inconvenience for you. They'll mock your efforts. They'll disguise ridicule as humor or casual conversation. They'll make jokes about your efforts or projects in a way that feels hurtful. They'll also make their issues seem more significant than yours to shift focus. For example, they'll claim their minor inconvenience is equivalent to a major crisis. A covert narcissist will mock your emotions. They'll ridicule or belittle your emotional reactions. They'll laugh off your feelings of hurt or frustration as an overreaction. They'll also emphasize your failures. They'll constantly remind you of your past mistakes or failures. They'll bring up old errors or poor decisions to undermine your confidence. They'll also feign illness. They'll pretend to be ill or overwhelmed to elicit sympathy and divert attention. For example, they'll claim a chronic illness is worsening to justify poor behavior. They'll also use vague language to keep you confused or uncertain. For example, they'll give unclear instructions to make you question your ability to understand. They'll also sabotage your efforts. They'll subtly interfere with your plans or efforts. They'll deliberately provide misleading advice that causes you to fail. They'll also make promises they have no intention of keeping to manipulate you. For example, they'll promise to change certain behaviors but never follow through. A covert narcissist will also hurt you by eroding your sense of self. They'll make you feel alone or alienated from others. For example, they'll discourage you from spending time with friends or family. They'll undermine your identity. They'll challenge or dismiss your sense of self. For example, they'll criticize your interests or hobbies to make you question your identity. They'll emphasize dependence. They'll make you feel like you rely on them for happiness or validation. They'll suggest that you wouldn't be successful or happy without them. They'll also accuse you of being inconsistent or hypocritical when you're not. For example, they'll tell you that you are not living up to your own stated values or principles. They'll also create situations where you feel constantly judged or criticized. For example, they'll act like everyone is critical of you, even when they aren't. They'll also ignore your needs or feelings in subtle ways. They'll fail to acknowledge your presence or achievements during conversations. They'll reassure you falsely. They'll offer comfort or reassurance that is insincere or misleading. For example, they'll tell you that everything is fine, while secretly they'll undermine your efforts. They'll generate unnecessary drama or conflict to destabilize you. For example, they'll start arguments or create confusion to keep you on edge. They'll undermine achievement. They'll belittle or diminish your success to make you feel unworthy. For example, they'll downplay your accomplishments as luck or coincidence. They'll also act clueless about the impact of their actions to avoid responsibility. They'll claim they didn't know their behavior was hurtful, for example. They'll also indulge in deceptive behavior. They'll feign humility. They'll pretend to be modest while actually seeking validation. They'll downplay their own achievements to get compliments or admiration. They'll create false narratives. They'll construct false stories or scenarios to manipulate you. For example, they'll invent a story about someone's supposed negative opinion of you. They'll bombard you with excessive information to overwhelm or confuse you. They'll provide too much detail on irrelevant matters to distract you. They'll use flattery for manipulation. They'll praise you excessively to get something in return. For example, they'll compliment your skills to get you to do something for them. They'll act like they don't understand your point of view to dismiss your concerns. For example, they'll pretend not to understand why a behavior is problematic to avoid accountability. A covert narcissist will hurt you by creating false alliances. They'll act friendly with others to undermine your position or gain leverage. For example, they'll pretend to be supportive of your friends while actually working against you. They'll also pretend to understand or care about your feelings to gain your trust. For example, they will act like they're deeply concerned about your problems or only to manipulate you. They'll also use humor to belittle you. They'll make jokes that are actually subtle insults. For example, they'll joke about your personal issues in a way that feels hurtful. They will also offer support only when it serves their interests. For example, they'll be supportive when you are doing something they want, but indifferent otherwise. They'll also undermine others' support. They'll try to turn people against you or to create doubt in their support. For example, they'll suggest that your friends or family don't truly care about you. They will also exploit vulnerabilities. They'll use your vulnerabilities against you. They'll bring up your past failures or insecurities during arguments. They'll also make you feel like you need their approval or support to succeed. They'll suggest that you can't make important decisions without their input. They'll also act worried about your well-being while actually undermining you. They'll also pretend to care about your health while making you feel inadequate for not meeting the expectations. They'll also use past hurts. They'll bring up past traumas or hurts to manipulate or control you. They'll use past emotional wounds to justify their current behavior. They'll make you feel that your strengths or abilities are insignificant. They'll suggest that your skills are not as impressive as you think. They'll also deny or invalidate your experiences or feelings. They'll tell you that your memories or perceptions of events are incorrect. They'll also create dependency through support. They'll offer support only to make you dependent on them. For example, a covert narcissist will help you in a way that makes you feel you can't manage without them. They'll also feign helpfulness. They'll pretend to help while actually setting you up for failure. They'll offer to assist with a project but give poor advice that leads to problems. They'll also manipulate emotional responses. They'll use your emotional responses to control or exploit you. For example, they'll play on your fears or insecurities to get you to act in their favor. And finally, they will use others to hurt you. They'll manipulate other people to hurt you. That is what covert narcissists do best. They will manipulate other people to act against you, to make you look bad. For example, they'll influence a mutual friend to criticize you or to create conflict. So understanding these tactics of how covert narcissists try to hurt you can help you recognize and address covert narcissistic behavior. So if you find yourself dealing with this kind of behavior with a covert narcissist, then, or if you find yourself in this kind of situations, a covert narcissist trying to hurt you, seek support from a mental health professional or counselor, because that can be beneficial to you in navigating these challenging dynamics. Thank you. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel if you've not done so. Please subscribe. Thank you.